Hey guys, and welcome to Patrick's Basement. You have certainly already noticed it on the intro, which is a little different. Something will change here and there. On the one hand, I will no longer do the reviews in German as usual, but I will try to as best as I can in English. Since the English-speaking target group is slightly larger than the German one, the second aspect will be that I split the videos as you know them. Anyone who is familiar with my videos know that I like to merge the reviews with comedy interludes. As a result, that the actual review was pushed more and more into the background. That's why I split the whole thing. That is Patrick's Basement for the reviews, and so that Batman and Co. don't get lost, get my new sitcom, The Hovel Office, Even Superheroes Needs a Home, on top. If you haven't seen the first episode yet, be sure to watch it. Very funny, I promise you will laugh your ass off. Why I'm doing this? The whole thing would have to advance for me. That's the one hand, the videos would be a lot shorter and I could publish them much faster. I would no longer have to orient myself to the character and could tell my own story in the Hovel Office. And here in Patrick's Basement we can concentrate 100% on the figure. The most important thing will be that you can no longer find me under my German name, but there was also a name change. I will no longer be found under Patrick's Wohnzimmer, but in the future Patrick's Basement. Enough talk and mentioned. In the last review we are embarking on a journey to Middle-earth after Helms Deep to be exact. Now I'm present to you not other than Legolas, the Battle of Helms Deep, exclusive edition of Asmus. At the latest now we should be a little irritated. All we see here is a huge heavy cardboard. No, you won't believe it, but we will be, and that's the good thing, quite spoiled. Because on the one hand, not only the packaging of the figure is in the box, but also a little surprise if you like. But I would like to start later with the packaging of the figure as usual. On the front you can see a picture, a scene image of Legolas. In the background, the inscription of the ring shines in a bright blue. What is interesting here is the fact, as long as my eyes do not deceive me, that there is a picture of an antler here on the left and the right. Could be this a hint of Thranduil, the king of Mirkwood and father of Legolas? If the character came from the Hobbit film adaptation, the whole thing will make sense. Here less, as we're currently dealing with part 2 of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, E8 The Two Towers. Below then a banner with the Lord of the Rings lettering and separately a Legolas lettering. Also below this is the title E8, the scene on which this character was modeled, in this case the Battle of Helms Deep. At the bottom left is the New Line Cinema and the logo of Asmus Toys, as already mentioned, the company from which this figure comes. On the side then Legolas lettering, and as on the front, beautiful to see in the bright blue, the inscription of the ring. If you look closely you can see the map of Middle-earth. On the back we have another scene picture of Legolas, this time from behind. Here too the initials of the ring can be seen very clearly in a circular way. And then a thank you from Asmus Toys for choosing the character. I'll say so, the Lord of the Rings fans have no choice but to choose this, as Asmus has grabbed the rights to Lord of the Rings. This should not sound negative now. Quite the contrary, the next few minutes will be quite exciting regards to question of whether Asmus can compete with Hot Toys or other manufacturers that are now shooting out of the ground. In order to have a comparison, however, we first have to take your figure out of the packaging. What are my prospects? Favorite part of the trilogy? The Two Towers. Favorite character? Legolas. And best moment? The Battle of Helms Deep. What else can go wrong? Let's start with the face, and unfortunately it's really too early to recognize that. You have to have some imagination to recognize Orlando Bloom here. Unfortunately you have to say that there is clearly room for improvement here. The mouth area and the nose will still be okay for me. I think the main problem is the eyes. I made a comparison in this regard and put the outlines of an original picture over the head sculpt, and you can see that the difference is actually not as big as you think at the beginning. But you can clearly see that the problem is the eyes. Of course, lighting condition and viewing angles often also play a role. I recently looked at the review at Gandalf, the Grey, also from Asmus, to just get an idea how the other companions perform. And I thought to myself, wow, That's Ian McKellen as far as the profile was concerned. But when he turned his head, the similarity was no longer quite as great. The funny thing is, later in the music clip pays special attention to the face of Legolas, and like me, you will be surprised at what makes the change of backgrounds, light and camera angles. When I shoot the video and later look at the recordings, I look at a little stunned because I suddenly saw a certain resemblance to Orlando than initially thought. From time to time to decide to make an upgrade. In fact, Gandalf got a facelift. Who knows, maybe there will be a Legolas 2.0 with improved head sculpt in the near future. With the hair, it was decided to rely on the famous sculpted hair on the one hand, which make perfect sense, especially with Legolas, because I can imagine how difficult it must be to use rooted hair. The main reason should be the braided hair on the respective side and on the back of the head. You managed to change with a clever transition from the upper sculpted hair to the rooted hair in the lower area without it being of great importance. Absolutely the right decision to use synthetic hair, which is not only a lot more visually but functionality. Eye movement technology should also play an important role. Let's go to the costume, and as you know, a lot has changed in part 1, at least as far as the armor objects are concerned. But first of all, I would like to praise the costume designers, especially as far as the Lord of the Rings films adaptation are concerned. I think it always goes down a bit. As you know, I count as a costume freak, you can already say, and I have actually worn this costume myself at countless medieval markets, and especially at this sign, Old Memories Awaken in retrospect. I'm a bit sad not to own this costume anymore. Times are changing, but not a love to Lord of the Rings. But I don't want to digress now. The coat is made of a thin green fabric that is tied on the side, but is not immediately recognizable at first glance because it is covered by a shoulder armor, but can be easily recognized on the chest. Is that the custom Legolas names make everyone honor. As you know, Legolas is also called Greenleaf, and when we look at the shape and the fantastic different colors use it and the silver elven vines, it's very reminiscent of a leaf. And as just mentioned, now not recognizable by the shoulder armor, both fabrics overlap on the arms in such a way that it created the impression that it is a folded sheet. This design will come to light even more often. We will notice that in a moment. Under the vamps is an almost glowing silver tunic. We have just mentioned it, the shoulder armors, and so we would have a small figurehead can be said. Because if you saw a picture of Legolas with shoulder armor, considerers would know immediately, aha, the Two Towers, the Battle of Helms Deep, because he only wore the shoulder armors to the said battle. I'm really glad that this was taken into account. Only in part 3, The Return of the King, he also wore it very briefly at the beginning in Isengard. The costume already looks so good, but with the shoulder armors even better. And you can see they are not separated into parts in one piece, but as in the original for more freedom of movement. Nice to see the incorporated seams and golden rivets. The whole thing was once attached on the right side to a strap that goes over the chest and once to the strap for the quiver. Very nice to see are the individual buckles which were integrated, separated. The only reason, for whatever reason, the buckle of the strap for the additional sword sheath is not separated but in one piece. Nice to see here the difference to the buckle of the quiver. Since we are talking about the quiver, I mentioned it at the beginning that certain armaments changing into part 1. You can say that certain things were pimped up a bit by Lady Galadriel, the bow, the arrows and among other things the quiver, which has changed a little from the design as you can see. The main color is still brown, but now we see a proud golden peacock stretching along the entire quiver. Someone hidden underneath are the knife sheaths of the white knives. We come later for stocking. The belt is brown with a golden buckle, very detailed and beautiful to see the fine incorporated ornate lines, and as usual in the Middle Age, the belt is additionally noted despite the buckle. Under the belt is another strap to which the additional sword sheath, which was also specially needed only for the scene in Helm's Deep, is attached. The design clearly shows the handwriting of the Rohirrim, even if it fits the standard equipment of Legolas in terms of color. It can be assumed that Helm's Deep was used before the battle in the armory. The arm rails look fantastic. Round around are golden ornaments and runes can be recorded in the middle. And also very nice to see how both ends overlap. The pants are grey and are made of slightly thicker fabric than Ram's. I will tap on velvet at this point. Finally we come to the boots, and they are unique in their design. I think here is most clearly visible, similar to the shoulders or the arm rails, the multiple superimposing layers. Visually it looks as the boots consist of folded leaves. Of course we know it better. I had to experience firsthand that the whole thing is not so easy to make and had to have the boots made for my Legolas costume. I would like to take this opportunity to greet and thank Bodo, who is actually focused on my beautiful footwear in my area and really managed to implement the boots one-to-one thanks to a Legolas figure as a template. But we want to continue to the focus of the footwear of the figure, and we look similar on the sides, if not even the same runes as they can be found on the arm rails. The whole thing is then divided, that is, the foot is separate. The only thing that surprised me was that the upper part of the boots is firmly connected to the legs. I have not yet seen that in this form. I actually only have figures whose boots have a little play, which is also crucial for mobility. This is new for me. Let's go to the mobility. The head is separately connected to the neck and can be completely rotated around its own axis. To my surprise, the arms can actually be stretched out to 90 degrees laterally. I thought that would not be possible because of the shoulder armors. But lo and behold. We also reach the 90 degrees when extending the arms forward. Angling works perfectly. The torso can be turned to the left and right, albeit a little laboriously. The whole thing goes back and forth as well. The legs can be stretched forward by about 60 degrees. It looks different when bending. We reach 90 degrees. I would just like to briefly note that in contrast to the Hot Toys figures, torso and legs can be moved very laboriously. Arms are still okay for me, but as I said, with the torso and legs, you have to go there properly. Their feet are separated and reach a little to the front and even to align something to the side. I was positively surprised that this figure is very well balanced. It was a lot of fun to work with this figure. I could create poses that I would never have dared to dream of. Let's get to the accessories. We have a total of 8 interchangeable hands, the bow of the Galadriel, 10 arrows, the white battle knives, 2 additional knives for the knife sheaths, a sword, and at the good end an elf cloak. Let's get started with the base, and that's actually kept very simple. It's made of thin plastic. At the top you can see the Lord of the Rings print. More or less simple, but absolutely okay for me. For those who are not on the simple now, will find it more boring and hope for something more unusual and think that Asmus now leaves us hanging with something in the air with this base, then I can reassure you, because now we come to my personal highlight and we actually get additional diorama, i.e. part of the city wall, defense wall if you like, donated by Helms Deep, and the whole thing has it all, I can promise at this point. At the beginning I mentioned that the packaging is quite heavy. Now the reason for this is probably that this gem alone, when assembled, which is made of resin polystone, a type of synthetic resin, has a proud weight of 5.95 pounds. So it's quite a chunk. And this chunk is not only heavy but looks incredible when combined with the figure. The makers of Asmus can give themselves a pat on the back. Really great performance. The structure itself is relatively simple. We have the base plate and a part of the defensive wall. Both parts are simply plugged into each other. If you have done that, the whole thing will initially look like this. Of course, the ladder that the Urukais used to climb the wall of Helm's Deep must not be missing. It should be mentioned that even the ladder, similar to the diorama itself, are made of the same material. Heavy, very massive, if they can withstand a lot. However, some work is still waiting for us here, because before we erect the ladder, we have to put them together at the upper known left and right. Both ends look really the same, so the risk of confusion is very high, only with the difference that the right side has a chain, which we wrap around the connection points on the right and the left as soon as both ends are fixed to the contactor, because not only do both sides look identical except for the chain, but both parts are also magnetic. How you attach your chain at the end, just like I wrap it, or just let it hang on the side, is of course entirely up to you. When everything is assembled, the whole thing looks like this. Finally we can round off the whole thing visually, and we also get a fire goblet with fire effects that we can place as desired. Well, did I promise too much? The figure itself looked fantastic. In addition to the diorama, we get a piece of Helm's Deep into your home, so to speak. They make my heart beat a little faster right now, and I have to say it again and again. Asmus has done a great job here and can be quite proud of her work. Let's get to the weapons, and what will an elf be without his bow? And that is if you want the second edition. As I said, the bow belongs to one of the many gifts of Lady Galadriel, the Bow of the Galadrim to be exact. Visually like the original, beautiful to look at, almost exclusively in grey, a kind of weathering effect in the middle and at the end of the bow, similar to Be Custom Elf's ornaments. The arch tenon is wrapped at both ends and indeed functionary. However, I don't want to try it all that often. The bow looks really super great, but it already looks very fragile. Since we are talking about functionality, in order for a bow to shoot, it needs arrows. We get 10 of them. The arrows are also completely made of plastic, beautiful painted. The tips stand out very nicely with this gold from the shaft, which is painted in a very dark green. The feathers are also green, albeit lighter. They were still brown before the visit in Lothlorien. Next to the bow, let's probably come to one of the best known weapons of Legolas, the battle knives, or better known as the white knives. The name probably related to the blades, which are not really white, but you know this is just a nickname. I think in the film series every weapon has a special name, probably to imitate the opponent a little. I think that would work for me. I think the name and the weapon itself is really cool. Even if they are view size smaller here, they are no less beautiful to look at. The knives have a broad length of 3.5 inches with a golden handle. The special thing I think is that the gold was processed into the blade in the form of elven tendrils that spread almost over the entire blade. Beautiful. We get an additional pair. With the difference, you can see right away that they are a good bit shorter, 1.3 inches to be exact. But it should immediately be clear to everyone that purpose I'm saying not just handles, because that's all we actually have. They are simply inserted on the back into the knife sheaths that hide a little behind the quiver. Inserted and done. Let's come to a weapon that Legolas also uses specifically only in the fight of Helm's Deep, and it sounds very familiar to me. We are talking about a sword probably from the armory of Helm's Deep, which is very similar to the sword Hieroglyph of King Theoden. The sword should be a one-handed bar and knob or held in gold in hardly different shape and size. However, the biggest distinguishing feature is likely to be the relatively narrow and rounded bar, and therefore I just mention it unique in the film series, and you can immediately assign it to Rohan. Both sides are decorated with beautiful runes. To my surprise, the blade is not made of metal, but also of plastic, which does not really bother me. In the sense, the appearance is more important to me. We put the sword in the sword sheets provided for this purpose, which I had already presented. In terms of weapons, we would already be fully equipped. That means one thing is still missing. Yes, right. Last but not least, we come to the cloak, because this was also a gift from Lady Galadriel to your campaigns when they are said goodbye from Lothlorien. The cloak is kept in a darker green and is made of the same material as the vamps. If we look closely, and now don't get a heart attack, we see a huge hole in the middle of the cloak. But as I said, that's intentional, but I come back to that right away. The cloak is held together with the well-known branch of Leaf of Lorien. According to the instructions, there is a precise procedure for creating the cloak. On the one hand, we should actually first remove the head of your figure. And secondly, we have to, and now I come to the mentioned opening, push the quiver with the knife sheaths through the opening. Be sure to remember that the quiver is not filled with arrows. I deliberately omit them before. Once this is done, we put the cloak around the neck and fasten the head again. Once all this has been done, we can finally fill your quiver. It already looks pretty good. By the way, a wire is integrated into the hood, which allows us to manipulate the hood a little. Legolas, my favorite character from the movie series The Lord of the Rings, and quite fittingly the figure was adapted to my favorite part, the Two Towers. It's called Plus Shoulder Armor. For me, their best implementation of Legolas, Asmus has done a great job, no question. My personal highlight is the addition diorama, which together with the figure is a real eye-catcher. Unfortunately, I have problems with the recognizing value of Orlando Bloom. The competition is getting bigger and bigger. In addition, InArt has also got the rights to The Lord of the Rings. And if you have seen or know the work of InArt, you know that it almost borders on perfection. Nevertheless, I enjoy this character, I love this character, and I appreciate the passion that the developers have put into this character. With regard to the competition, Asmus is still somewhat behind, but I have seen what Asmus is able to do, and that makes me look positively into the future. My rating is as follows. And what you can do with the figure, I'll show you now. I honestly didn't have Asmus on the screen. I didn't even know that Asmus existed. When I started collecting about 3 years ago, I was only looking for hot toys for the first point contact of figures and blindly falling a shamer, and there is so much more out there. In my opinion, Asmus was achieved a great performance and put so much love and passion not only in the figure, but also in the accessories in the diorama. It was incredibly fun to work with this character. Asmus will be firmly in my note. In the future, during this review, there was a second order, which I will not withhold from you, of course, but all in order, because only in the next program we will make a small journey through in time to the year 1966 to be exact. The slightly older generation can look forward to Adam West and Burt Ward, because I don't introduce anyone less than Batman and Robin 1966 from Hot Toys. I'm already really looking forward to it. That was Patrick's Basement. I hope you like it. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And don't forget, if you look for toys, then Patrick's your choice. See you then.